All right, everyone. Welcome to the Sarcasm and Liberty live stream. This one's kind of a last-minute one I wanted to touch on because I think, Mike, you were the one that brought it up about this article that Massachusetts just made a court ruling against quote-unquote assault weapons. And I hate using the word assault weapons because it's such a like anything can be considered an assault weapon. It's so insane what people consider an assault weapon. It's a misnomer. It's not like an actual term. The military doesn't use the term assault weapon. If you're assaulting somebody with something that could be considered a weapon, is that not an assault weapon? It's fucking crazy. But so far I'm joined by Amos, Madness, Mike, and Pat. Thank you guys for being able to join us. I don't know. Has everybody had a chance to read through this, read through at least a little bit of this Massachusetts ruling of the court?
Yeah, I've read the Newsweek article.
Okay. Mike, I think Mike. Were you the first one to bring it up? I believe.
Yeah, I saw it last night.
Okay. Would you mind?
I showed it to you guys.
Yeah. Would you mind giving us a kind of quick overrun of what the article's about?
Well, basically, a federal judge in Massachusetts has issued a ruling. Now, I don't remember all the details about how this was brought before this judge, but the judge ruled that AR-15s and large capacity magazines are not covered by the Second Amendment. Well, so basically, and what it says is that they may impose a ban on them and it wouldn't be unconstitutional.
Real quick, because like the article, and from what I read, it mentions assault weapons. Is the word assault weapon in the language of that ban? Or yes. Okay, that's what boggles my mind. And like we were talking real quick before the stream started. Assault weapon is such a misnomer. It's if you assault somebody with a weapon, do you not consider what Amos, you were saying, a baseball bat can be considered an assault weapon in certain parts of the world because, you're assaulting somebody with it. If you look at, too, for a lot of, there are numerous memes and, things out there about you can take what looks kind of more military-like an AR-15 and what looks like a hunting rifle, and they both can be semi-automatic. You can use the same ammunition, but one looks scary, one doesn't look scary. So one is considered an assault weapon, and it's fucking crazy. And it goes to show the ignorance of and the fear mongering that impact that these people have. That you can get to the point where you can ban weapons based off of just cosmetic stuff. It doesn't matter what the weapon shoots. It doesn't matter how it shoots. It matters how it looks and if it feels scary enough. And then I feel like that gives these people a foothold to actually ban certain weapons. And then once you give them that inch, they're just going to keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing. So for now, I want the primary focus for at least our first discussion to be off of that, this Massachusetts court ruling and how everybody feels about that, what they think is wrong with it. And I'd like this to be the main point of discussion to start with.
Okay, so, can I say one thing? The article, the title from Newsweek said, Court rules Second Amendment does protect AR-15 assault rifles and large capacity magazines. So it's not just the guns, but the magazines used.
So we have to be very careful with this because assault weapon and assault rifle are two different things. Mm. So assault weapon is a nebulous term. It doesn't really... it's not really attributed to anything. Historically speaking, the term assault rifle was coined by... Oh, one second, I got this weird sound. Here we go.
No, you're fine.
Assault rifle was coined by Adolf Hitler during World War II to describe the type of machine guns they were producing to enact the Blitzkrieg. And the ruling for the Massachusetts law, the Massachusetts law specifically says that pistols are included in the assault rifle ban.
Yeah, that's what's fucking crazy.
The ruling is essentially any bottom loading weapon that emits gas. So even tasers and pepper spray, you need a license for.
Okay, Amos, you said you got to leave in a few minutes.
No, I just got for about, let's give it about half an hour. I'll be back in about half an hour. So
okay. Yeah, we should still be going by then. So if you got something real quick, Amos, that you want to bring up for the discussion, go ahead. Or do you have to leave right now?
Yeah, I gotta leave right now. I just have to call someone else. But yeah, I'll be back in about half an hour.
Yeah, we should still be going strong on this, hopefully. So we'll see you. We'll see you when you're able to come back. So yeah, and I feel like to the point Pat was making, it's kind of insane what they're willing to consider an assault rifle even, and then like guns, you know. How many? First of all, how many things are they going to ban that aren't even rifles that can get wrapped up in that? Because, and then as I was talking before the stream started, there are rifles that are basically essentially the same as an AR-15, as in they shoot the same ammunition. They have the semi-automatic capability, but one looks more like a military weapon. One looks more like a hunting rifle. So the one that looks like a hunting rifle isn't considered as dangerous or as worrisome as the one that looks like a military rifle.
Well, the Massachusetts assault ban actually goes further than that. It classifies any firearm that is not a semi-automatic weapon. Basically any firearm that's a semi-automatic weapon is an assault rifle in this bit.
That's nuts. Now, real quick, there's a quote from, I believe it's the court that actually said this, the judge that made this ruling that says, AR-15s and large capacity magazines are most useful in military service. They are beyond the scope of the Second Amendment. Now, first of all, the AR-15 is not a military weapon. Now, it is, yes, it is modeled after the M16, but there's huge differences. Main one being like the M16 A2, which is the most common standard issue in the military right now, has like 3-round burst capabilities and stuff like that. The AR-15 at best can do semi-automatic, where you can just, you get 1 bullet per trigger pull. That's the best you can do. So, and it's not the exact same. But then also, like I said, I brought up, there are hunting rifles that are essentially the same thing. They just look different. So when you're pointing out things like the AR-15, and the AR-15 gets a lot of flack because everybody's like, well, it's a military rifle. And first of all, and just know it's not a military rifle. And second of all, the M16A2 is such a shitty weapon. Like, it's a piece of crap. Like, I was in the military. I've shot it, and that thing, like, it'll jam for no fucking reason. M16s suck, and that's because they're made for the lowest bidder. They're not like fantastic, amazing weapons. Just because we use, a fucking 9mm Beretta is an officer's. I don't know if they've actually. I know there was talk about them going back to 45s, but I don't know if they ever did that. But when I was in service, at least, the 9mm Beretta was the officer's weapon of choice. And so, like, are you going to tell me that because an officer can use a 9mm Beretta, that nobody should be allowed to use a 9mm pistol? It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then I hear a lot of like, well, you can't use an AR-15 for hunting. It has no use. And I'm like, okay, an AR-15 uses the exact same ammunition as many, many different kinds of hunting rifles and many different kinds of hunting rifles there are plenty of people that actually use hunting, like AR-15s can be used as a hunting rifle because it's the same ammunition, it's the same concept, it's just a different like style of gun. So and then I think one of the things, because I don't know how much Massachusetts touched on this specifically, but I know one of the things that was going on before with a lot of stuff with the like assault weapon bans is it was specific modifications you can make to the gun that would turn it into an assault rifle or an assault weapon, where like if you had the forward grip as opposed to holding the barrel like normal, or there's that little grip on the bottom you can hold. And if you have the little grip on the bottom, then suddenly it becomes an assault weapon, you know. And it shows, and this is the kind of rhetoric you see from people that like Dianne Feinstein and lawmakers that know absolutely nothing about guns whatsoever. And then you see these people trying to make legislation, and then in the case of Massachusetts, succeeding in legislation. And I want to go into just how like against the Second Amendment and how much like unconstitutional Massachusetts ruling is in a minute. But I would like to get everybody's just some like what everybody feels about just this idea that what is and what isn't an assault weapon is so loosely defined, and it's so different from person to person. It's not a defined term. It is not a term you can say this is, and it's not as you can say this is a rifle, this is a pistol. It's not like an easily separated term like that. Assault weapon or assault rifle is so loosely defined by different people, and it can depend on what style the rifle is. It can depend on what kind of attachments the rifle has. There's so many variables there, so you can't, especially for a court to use the terminology assault rifle or assault weapon, just to me is so it's so ridiculous, because it's not something you can easily define, and it's not something that a court should be defining because it's such a misnomer. So yeah, you guys jump in on there. I want to hear what everybody has to say on that topic.
So I read through the bill. I read through the bill, and first of all, high capacity magazines were also included in this. High capacity in this case is any rifle or pistol magazine that holds over 10 rounds, and any shotgun magazine that holds over 5 rounds. Now, they actually do define assault rifle in the bill, but it's just as nebulous. It's any type of rifle, such as an AR-15, AK-47, the Israeli-made rifles. It lifts off a bunch of rifles, and then it says something like, or any rifle similar to these ones. So,
and okay, yeah, I want to jump in real quick, Pat. Like that's exactly what I'm saying though. Is like that because they have to make a specification, like if it's like an AR-15 or if it's like this weapon, that's what an assault rifle is. It shows that it's not an easily defined term as like the separation between something like rifle and pistol, or rifle and machine gun, or machine gun and something else. It's not like an easily defined where you can say this is the difference. An assault weapon, and like just from the wording that they're using, it sounds like it's very opinion based what they consider an assault rifle. It sounds like this is what we believe an assault rifle to be, so we're going to use this terminology, and it doesn't necessarily hold. You know, bless you, Ben. It doesn't hold up, you know, because it's like, well, you can't say. Oh, hold on, real quick. Shane, it looks like Shane's in the chat. Somebody in the comments says Merriam-Webster redefined assault rifle for this political agenda to include, and paraphrase, any rifle that looks like this one. Any rifle that looks like one. Which does seem to be the case. It's like it's as long as you consider, as long as whoever's writing the law or whoever's fear-mongering thinks a weapon like an assault rifle, it is an assault rifle to them. It doesn't matter what, like, you know, the actual technical specs of a weapon are. It's an assault rifle because they feel it's an assault rifle. So Pat, if you want to continue, sorry for that.
So first of all, the judge on the case he was appointed under Reagan. He has a pretty good record. He was he heard the shoebox bomber case. He's heard all sorts of cases. I didn't really find much information on his stance on guns, but from what I've seen,
are you talking about the judge?
Yep.
And he says, okay.
From what I've seen, he leans liberal. He references Scalia a lot in his ruling, which kind of sounded odd to me because, first of all, the Constitution is only a limiter on the federal government, They changed that with the 14th Amendment. But it sounds like they're kind of twisting Scalia's words. So Scalia's rulings was, like most rights, the Second Amendment right is not unlimited. It is not a right to keep and carry any weapon whatsoever in any manner whatsoever and for whatever purpose. But that is just as nebulous as the assault rifle. And the reason why they leave it open like this is so you can't ban specific guns.
Yeah. Now, here's something interesting, because if you read through this Newsweek article, and welcome back, Amos. If you read through this Newsweek article, there are things like they specifically reference the AR-15, and for some reason they reference the AK-47 as if that's something that's just available for people to go. Like you go down to your local gun store and pick up an AK-47. It's like,
wait, what?
Why do you even bring that up? Because it says in there.
I can go to Walmart and get an AK-47?
Yeah. The plaintiffs filed a lawsuit after Massachusetts Attorney General Maura Healey put gun dealers and manufacturers on notice that her office would begin enforcing the state's 1998 assault weapons ban that prohibited copies or duplicates of AR-15s and AK-47 rifles. And it's like, do we really need to go over the fact that, like, you cannot just go down to the store and pick up a fucking AK-47 with or without the assault weapons ban? And that's the other thing. Like, first of all, people bring up how, like, dangerous the AR-15 is. The AK-47, while it's not necessarily as accurate as an AR-15, it is such a better weapon. Like, an AK-47, you can fucking bury that thing in sand, dig it up, and it's going to fire just fine. The AR-15 will just jam on you for no, like, an M16. I can't specifically speak for the AR-15 because I never owned one. But the M16 that I actually used in M4s, they will jam for no goddamn reason. They are not well-made weapons. The military M16 is made by the lowest bidder, so they're shit weapons. But it's insane that there's lawmakers using these things like as if AK-47s are just easily accessible to the public or something. It boggles my mind. It boggles my mind that these are the people deciding for the rest of the country, for the rest of the law-abiding citizens, law-abiding responsible gun owners, what you can and can't have, based off of the misconception, the misunderstanding of fear-mongering lawmakers. That is so fucking crazy to me.
Wait, AR-15 has a longer round than an AK-47.
What?
Yeah, I just Googled AR versus AK. The AK is looks a little girthier as a round, but then the AR is longer.
7.62.
Well, it's like the difference between a 9mm and a 45. Just because it's bigger or longer doesn't mean it does more damage in the end.
Well,
doesn't the AK 7.62 though? I mean,
yeah, I thought the AK was a bigger round.
That's a bigger round than what an AR would shoot, because an AR shoots what, a 223?
It's a 5.56, which I can't remember.
Oh, I'm just looking at a picture. So
I believe the AK-47 actually shoots a higher. I believe the AK actually shoots a higher caliber than the AR-15. What is the military? Because the hunting rifles that use the same ammunition. They don't say 5.56. I forget what the. I think it's
223.
So I'm gonna actually.
That's it. 223. Yeah. So. Yeah. That's what the civilian, but if you look at how many civilian rifles that look like hunting rifles shoot the 223 or the 5.56, it's the same ammunition that the M16 or M4s use. It's the exact same ammunition, so it's like you can't.
Hey, what's this? And so it says here's the AK round, so it's slightly shorter. But it's like a girthier looking round.
Yeah. Well, okay. If you look real quick, if you look at Amos, because you'll see just the cartridge might look the same, but the actual bullet, the caliber part, is significantly larger.
Oh, this actual metal part here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the part that actually exits the rifle. So it's significantly larger. The cartridge itself. The bullet itself might look about the same size, but the actual
now
actual bullet that leaves the rifle is significantly bigger.
It can be smaller than another bullet.
So this is the part where we start to realize that a narrative is can be very easily manipulated.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I'm willing to ask the question, which is good. But the news would probably be like, "Look."
Yeah, and because
the people watching don't know anything about it, they're going to believe whatever the news tells them.
Yeah, and that's if you just look at any of the basic fear-mongering politicians or websites and go look at the comments of people that are freaking out about whatever they're fear-mongering about.
I mean,
it's insane to the average person who doesn't own a gun or hasn't had much to do with a gun. A picture like what Amos was showing is terrifying because it's like, oh my god, it shoots the same round as an AK-47. It's like, no, the bullet might, the cartridge might look the same, but like the actual bullet that leaves that fucking rifle is significantly different, very different. A 5.56 or 223, that like hunting rifle, it's not a large caliber round. It's actually pretty fucking small, especially when compared to something like, a 9mm. And this is me who has fired these weapons, who has loaded numerous weapons, who's dealt with this ammunition. The 9mm, like a 9mm round, is so much like chunkier than an AR-15 or an M16. It's a lot bigger, but it's because it's a pistol and because it's the round is shorter and stubbier. It doesn't get as much attention from the media.
I did one thing with always the movies and comics always both actually technically have done wrong. It's always show like this is the bullet and never like actually show what the actual bullet looks like. Because if they shoot the thing in either, they always show the complete thing, but it never happens.
Well, and then that's just part of the part of the part of the fear mongering that comes from the media is that they're always selective about the information they will let people know. And when you're dealing with an audience that their sole knowledge of guns comes from a source that is intentionally misleading them, they're gonna know so little about about these weapons, and they're gonna the stuff that they do know, the stuff that they actually are able to understand is gonna be so twisted and so misunderstood. They're going to make you can make any video. Go ahead, Mike.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Do you remember that video about that state senator from California who was giving a presentation, and he was talking about this is a ghost gun, and then he's talking about I can fire I think 100 magazine clip in 20 seconds or something like that.
Yeah, and every time I know exactly what you're talking about. And that's
guns. I always think back to that one video.
Mm-hmm. Wait, that's
part of the misinformation. Like Diana Feinstein, she talks about she knows so much about guns, and then there's the picture of her where she's showing a weapon to the crowd, and she's got her finger on the fucking trigger. She's pointing the barrel out the crowd, and it's like, you dumbass.
Yeah.
You can't know a bunch about guns and be that fucking retarded when it comes to weapons. Just basic any common gun owner is going to know you don't do that. You don't put your finger on the trigger unless you have the intention of pulling that trigger. You don't do it ever. You don't aim at something unless you have the intention of shooting that thing. So any responsible gun owner would tell you that. So when you have these lawmakers who can't even figure out the very basic tenets of responsible gun ownership, how are you supposed to rely on these people to legislate guns when they don't even understand them?
Well, it's not that they can't figure it out; is that they probably do know the capabilities. The problem is, any political party, Republicans, Democrats, they're all business. And the Democratic Party is in business victimhood, victimization, representing victims, minority groups. And for them to survive, they have to be able to convince people that the only way for them to survive is to remain a victim.
Yeah.
They have to have a boogeyman.
So what happens is they create this culture of fear. And the denial is so astounding that it warps reality for these people.
So if you guys see what I found here, I found the ghost gun.
Oh god.
Found the ghost gun, guys.
Right. Yeah. It's nuts.
It's senator.
Fucking and this is what's even more embarrassing is because this guy was in the military, but he was an officer. So like to be honest, how many times he shot a fucking actual M16, who knows? But he was the guy that like to the reporter was like he had an AR-15 and he's shooting like bam, bam, and then he's like now I'm gonna shoot on fully semi-automatic, and then he's like bam, 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 and it's like there's no such thing as fully semi-automatic. He made it sound as if you were switching a mode of fire, and all he was doing was pulling the trigger faster. I'm like, any semi-automatic gun, the rate of fire can depend on how fast you pull the fucking trigger. And it was so dishonest, and that's what kills me about stuff like this. That's what kills me about legislators and lawmakers and reporters that are putting out this information. Misinformation is that they're so dishonest about it. And I'm like, if guns are as horrifying and as terrible and as scary as you want to say they are, why can't you just be honest with everybody? You know, if you have to be dishonest, and this is what I say all the time, if you have to lie to push your agenda is bullshit. It's you know, if you cannot tell the flat out absolute truth without using fear-mongering tactics without being dishonest, then you know, like, it makes it seem as if you don't actually believe that these are as dangerous as you say they are, or you have to lie to make people more scared than what they should be.
Yeah, they're in the business of creating victims.
Yes.
One thing that principle that I think is really important that I followed is that twisting the truth is worse than denying it altogether.
Yeah, I would agree.
So twisting a narrative instead of just straight up saying we don't like guns. So I think it's so much worse. If Democrats, the left, whatever you want to call them, comes out and says we don't like guns because we're afraid that they can kill a lot of people in this country.
Yeah.
I think that would be a more honest stance rather than saying guns are icky and evil and this and that. Here's all the numbers that we kind of threw around. It makes them seem that much worse. Instead, they can just say we don't like
people already theorizing why they want to remove the gun so they can bring back slavery again.
Honestly, as somebody who's always going to remain pro-gun and feels like most anti-gun people are just misinformed or like succumbing to fear-mongering, I would have so much more respect for reporters and politicians if they would sorry, my daughter's messaging me. If they would, she's telling me to be quiet. Apparently, I'm talking too loud. If they would, I get this big long message that says, "Shh." Sorry, kiddo. If these people would just be honest, you know, if you feel so passionate, if you really honestly believe guns are too dangerous for people to own, be honest about them. Do not lie. Do not twist the truth. Do not, because I honestly, and this might be the cynic in me, but I just don't believe that so much of the fear-mongering and misinformation that comes from politicians and news reporters is just that they don't understand. I feel like so many of them do understand, but they're intentionally misrepresenting these arguments.
Well, another possibility, instead of just attributing evil and saying that these people want to create victims, is another possibility is they're projecting. So they see a gun owner and they think to themselves, oh boy, if I had a gun and if somebody really pissed me off, I would just go over and shoot them.
Yep.
So they attribute their motive to...
No, I'm shooting at the spot as well.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point, Pat. I do think there's a lot of projection because it's these people who are like, if I had a gun, here's all the potential horrible things I could do, and then it's like, well, okay, think of how many, and if anybody wants to look it up, I don't know what the exact number, but there are millions of gun owners in America. If just simply owning a gun was that dangerous, we'd know about it. It would be way more of a problem than what it is. It would be like we would be in constant fucking terror and like you know, people would be afraid to ever leave their houses. Like there are so many gun owners. If just simply owning the gun made, like, you know, you know, because I see all these times, it's like, well, people are going to get in an argument and somebody's going to like fucking shoot somebody. I'm like, no, they're not, because a responsible, rational, like typical person isn't just going to shoot somebody or brandish their gun because they're pissed off, you know. And I was like, you're projecting your feelings about how like what you feel like you might do if you had a gun.
102 million gun owners.
Yes, thank you.
Just about. So yeah, that's the thing, is like, if people come up to you and be like, you know, you talk about the gun issue and they'll say, well, these are used for killing people. I would, now that I'm thinking more in the projection thing, which I think is important, to just right away and say, why is the first thing that comes to your mind with a gun is killing someone? Is that what you think about a lot? And then they kind of go, whoa. It's like, well, I mean, I think of it as a tool. You're thinking of it instantly as something to use to kill people.
Yeah. And that shows where their frame of mind is when it comes to guns. There was Dianne Feinstein, who I will bring up again because I fucking hate her. Like, honestly, there's like a single politician who I hate the most, even more than Hillary Clinton. It's her, because she's just so stupid and like intentionally dishonest when it comes to guns. But she made this tweet, and it was like assault weapons, and she used the term assault weapons, but we know she's basically talking about the AR-15. And then she's like, you know, it can't be used for self-defense. You know, what good is it? And it can't be used for hunting. I'm like, first of all, as I brought up even in this fucking stream and in many other points, the AR-15 uses the same round that many different hunting rifles use. It is not uncommon or out of the ordinary or even not plausible for somebody to use an AR-15 to hunt. There's no reason why somebody couldn't use one. Honestly, if I was going to go hunting, my military background, I would feel more comfortable with something like an AR-15 because I would know how to handle it better than a hunting rifle. You know, I didn't grow up using hunting rifles. I've had way more training with something like an AR-15. So yeah, honestly, if I was to go hunting tomorrow and like somebody was like, "What weapon would you use?" I would want to use an AR-15. That's just me.
You want to kill people.
Yes, right? Yeah. But here's the other thing. Here's the other point of Dianne Feinstein's I want to bring up, is that she said you cannot, and she said this as a point of fact, you cannot use something like an AR-15 for self-defense, which blows my fucking mind. Because I'm like, there's any gun.
You can use a knife for self-defense.
Yeah. Any gun.
You see stories on the news about people using AR-15s for self-defense.
Exactly.
I mean, like, you read stories about home invasions. I mean, you see them all the time. You know,
yeah.
Person at home alone uses an AR-15 to fend off 3 people that break in the house.
And you have to dig a little more to find those articles because they're hidden so much. You know, they don't want you to see them, but you can find them out there. There's so many articles that you know, it's AR-15s and things the media considers an assault weapons. Yes, they can be used for self-defense. They are constantly used for self-defense. Mm-hmm. To say otherwise you're either being extremely ignorant or being intentionally dishonest. It's one or the other, or maybe a little bit of both.
Here's a question.
Mm-hmm.
Can an AK-47 be used for home defense?
Why not?
Sure.
I think that's the real question. There is that they're seeing like they think there's an upper threshold to defense.
Okay.
And it's like
as I stated earlier, and here's somebody who's fired an AK-40, like a legitimate AK-47 before, and who's actually taken apart one, put one together, cleaned one, and an M16, and who has been taught a lot about those two. Honestly, if I had my choice, like if I was going to be like, if I knew it was a fight for my life kind of situation and somebody gave me the choice, I would pick up the AK-47 because it has less of a chance of jamming on me. Mm-hmm. Because it's just, honestly, AK-47s are better built. Like they can be considered not as accurate, but and I feel like that's mostly because the people who use AK-47s in different countries are just spray and pray. But I feel like that's where that misconception comes in. But it's a better built weapon. It doesn't jam as much, you know. And I feel like that's the thing, is because it looks and it sounds scary, so it's too dangerous to own. And that's where so much of this misinformation and so much of this ignorance from people who are anti-gun comes in. Is just they're being lied to and they totally fall for it.
So I'm going to channel my inner Kathy Newman here and say, so what you're saying is you want a weapon that's better at killing people.
I do, honestly.
It doesn't jab, so it's better at killing people.
If it comes to self-defense, hell yeah, I want the gun that kills people better. Fuck yes, I do, honestly.
Well, you can defend your home with a musket.
Here's the thing. No, here's the thing. I was a machine gunner, so I'm like, shit, if I had my fucking choice without, like, restriction, I'd be packing an M249. Like, that's what I'd be keeping. Because I was like, I'm going to have 200 rounds, motherfucker. Like, you better hope you don't get out of, I don't come to my house. I got 200 rounds to deal with you.
Well, it's also interesting that that people don't take the threat of tyranny seriously.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. It's so weird. If you look at the EU, it's a prime example why you should fucking fear it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the government even tried already dismantled the fucking army here for some stupid reason.
Well,
so make it easy for invaders. How fucking stupid can you be?
When it comes up, people like to bring up, like, well, how is this person, like one guy with an AR-15, going to hold off the U.S. government? They're going to drone strike you and all this shit. I'm like, wait, first of all,
102 million people.
Yeah, 102 million people. First of all, if tomorrow the U.S. government was like, hey, army and police, you have to turn on citizens and corral them into camps or forcibly take away their guns and all this shit. Do you really think the entirety of the military or the police force is just going to go along with that? I feel like it would be so fractured overnight, like instantaneously. So many people are going to be like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. That's bullshit. It's not going to happen. Second of all, have you heard of Afghanistan? Have you heard of Iraq, where all these people with fucking secondhand weapons and improvised explosive devices have been fucking us over for like 10 years now?
These are people that almost 20 years educated. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
People with almost no education, and they adapt and find ways to fight against.
These are people. I would honestly, to your point, Mike, I would honestly say that, and I obviously can't prove this, and there's probably no research to say this, but this is my personal guess, that the average insurgent in Iraq or Afghanistan has far less weapons training than the average gun owner in America. And look how they're handling themselves. They are holding off the entirety of the United fucking States military, and we cannot stomp them out. It's impossible to stomp them out. Like, you really think that's just, it's going to be something so easy as like, well, they're going to use drone strikes. I'm like, yeah, they're going to, and every time you use a drone strike, like you're just going to increase this idea of like, you're not going to use a drone strike to take out a sole dude with a fucking M16 holding out his house, and if you do, how many civilian casualties are there going to be? Like, there's no way. Eventually the populace is going to turn against the entire populace is going to turn against the government. Well, so you could start with just like a small group, and 102 million is not a small group, but you can start with a small group of people holding off the government. But like, it's just going to grow and grow and grow, especially when you consider so many of the military and the police are going to immediately turn on that. They're going to say, no, I'm not going to do this. They're either going to withdraw or they're going to work from the inside to sabotage.
Well, I also think there's a misunderstanding as to what a tyrannical government is, because we haven't really had any good coverage of one or experiences with one besides North Korea, which we literally know almost nothing about. Tyrannical governments don't want to kill the population. They need them to survive. Who else is going to do the work? That's why you hear about like re-education camps, conditioning. So,
like Nazi Germany did.
Exactly. So a tyrannical for any situation.
We should fucking know about, and still that a lot of people play the fucking ignorant card.
Yeah. Well, for any situation, there's two ways you could convince somebody to do something. You can either force them to do it, which is coercion, or you can convince them to do it. And if somebody has a gun, you can't force them to do it unless you believe in mutually assured destruction.
Yes. Agreed.
So once you take that out of the picture, you can force them all you want.
this goes back to we haven't had a chance to really discuss it. One of the things I want to discuss was this. I know we discussed it a little bit when we talked about the drug war. The whole was it Hawaii? I think it was.
Yep.
It was doing a thing of like if you are a medical marijuana user, you have an ultimate 30 days to turn in your guns. And I'm like, okay, this is the government saying turn in your guns peacefully, or we're gonna come and take them by force from you. Mm-hmm. Like, is that? Do you really think that that's gonna turn out well? You know, and I would hope that Hawaii police that are told, hey, go to this house and forcibly take their guns away from them, that somebody would be like, okay, this doesn't feel right to me. I don't like this. I'm refusing this order, or I'm pulling away from the force, or something. Like, I can't be a part of this. I would hope and pray that there would be people that with enough integrity to maintain that, you know, and I feel like this, you know, this is what sucks about this government fear-mongering and misinformation campaign by the government, by lawmakers, and by the media is, you know, they've got people so brainwashed that they think that the government using guns to go take away guns from people is okay. It's not hypocritical, and it makes sense. And I was like, you just can't. Adam Kokesh, and I know he's a polarizing figure, but one of the first things I saw from Adam Kokesh was this video where he went to an anti-gun rally, and he was polite. He waited until all the speakers were done, and then he's got a fucking megaphone, and he's like, you know, being anti-gun is not a thing. You aren't anti-gun. If you are anti-gun, if you say you're anti-gun, you're pro-gun, you're just pro the government having guns. And then, like, you know, it was hilarious. There's this great clip of him because there's these women, like when the "Yes We Can" chant was going on, like "Yes we can," and there's these women like just saying "Yes we can," and he was like, "How? Yes we can. How? Yes we can. How?" And it just kept going back and forth until he just busts out laughing, you know, because he's just like, "You guys aren't giving me anything, you know. You're saying yes we can, but fuck, how? How the hell do you take away? How do you stop gun ownership? The only way you can do that is by force. So you're not anti-gun. You're just pro only the government having guns." And yes, as anybody would know, that turns out so fucking well. Just the government having gun ownership.
The narrative doesn't match for the left. On one hand, they're thinking cops are gunning down black people, Asian people, Mexicans, disabled. I don't know. They think they're gunning down everybody when it comes down to it, which I think there's part of a problem there. But then they say, but only the government can have guns.
Yeah, they're like give the police all the guns, but the police are evil people as well. That is weird.
And this goes back to people who are anti-gun don't have the responsibility or are not confident in providing for their own self-defense. So they want to source it to the government because they've been told all their lives that the government can solve all their problems.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. And it's this perpetual like ignorance, you know, and that's how the honestly the anti-gun thrives on ignorance and fear mongering. If they weren't able to convince people, and I'm just gonna flat out say it, they weren't able to convince stupid people, easily gullible people, that guns are super dangerous and that you need the government to protect you from the average gun owner, even though there's 100 million gun owners that aren't a fucking problem. You know, then like they would have nothing. They would have nothing to really like pull on your heartstrings. And if it wasn't for these shootings that happen, you know, they would have nothing to pull on. And then even if honestly, I haven't like seen any more recent data, but I know like at least a year ago or a couple of years ago, like shootings are on the decline. I don't know if that trend has changed or not. I don't know if there's even any kind of like material out there where you can find in the recent years whether it's gone up or down. But you know, there's a point like mass shootings was on everybody's minds, but it was on the decline. And it's because, you know, when you're talking about gun violence, like what's the majority of gun violence in America? Things like gangs, people who are not using guns legally. So taking gun ownership away from responsible people who want it for self-defense makes no sense whatsoever.
Quick little thing here. So remember I said 102 million gun owners. 3% of the population own over half the guns.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is
300 million guns in total in the U.S. estimated.
It's like three. Well, it's they say it's about one gun for every American. So I did about 320 million.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about 122 guns per person in that 3%.
Well, another thing that a lot of people are neglecting is this is the left wants this to become an aesthetic war, like we were talking about earlier with the assault rifle. It's about how it looks, not about the actual specs of it.
Yep, exactly.
But we're at the point now where we can 3D print our own guns.
Yes.
You know, we can make everything it requires to have a gun. You know, anybody can become a gunsmith, and you can make a gun not look like a gun. If you make a AR-15 look like, I don't know, a golf club, is it still an assault rifle?
Yeah, and that's the thing is like where do you draw this line? And that's what I constantly ask these people is like where do you draw the line? And if you look at what a lot of legislators consider the difference between an assault rifle and a hunting rifle is like a piece of plastic, a piece of black plastic that makes the gun look more scary, not actually more dangerous in any way. And as a person who has used both a forward grip and just a regular grip on a gun, I would take the regular grip any day. But, switching over from one to the other didn't make the gun more deadly, Like having a forward grip on a gun doesn't make it more deadly, doesn't make it more accurate, doesn't make it any fucking different other than a preference on how you hold the weapon. That's it. And this is the kind of stuff that these lawmakers thrive on. And that's where I feel like it's important to take a stand and push these, like talk about this kind of stuff, because it's important, because then you're showing people like this is the ignorance. This is how little these people actually know about what they're talking about. That some pieces of plastic turn a weapon into an assault weapon for these people. The same weapon, as long as it looks like a hunting rifle, is perfectly fine. So I'm like, this is the ignorance that we see. And then I feel it's important to let people know that. And I feel it's important to take a stand, because if you give in and be like, whatever, that's fine. These people, if you give them an inch, they're just going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Because look what you see now in the UK. They're trying to just talk about outlawing knives, like sharp knife, pointy knives. There are
butter knives.
There are knife turn-ins. Go ahead, Mike.
Butter knives.
Let's just say hypothetically, they get their way and they are able to impose these gun bans, and then you see the percentage of gun ownership go down in this country. Does that really change anything though? Because you were just talking about London with knife bans.
Yeah.
I know that one thing that you said you wanted to talk about was that the murder rate in London. Well, first off, the UK has a gun ban that the left loves to champion. They always love to bring up Europe.
Mike, if I can jump in real quick, because Paleo just dropped in the chat. He dropped an article, and this is something. London has a higher murder. London has a gun ban, has a higher murder rate than New York.
Yep.
And it's insane. It's like outlawing guns doesn't outlaw. Like murder is already illegal, which is something I've said many times. And we even have a meme that states that murder is already illegal. You cannot outlaw murder any more than it is. You can try to outlaw the tools. People are going to find different tools. As we were discussing earlier before the stream even started, it is so much easier to make a bomb than it is to go buy a gun in this country. And once people start figuring that out, people have already figured out that you can buy a fucking truck and just plow through a group of people and kill just as many as a person with a gun can.
Just like what happened in Germany.
Exactly, and that's happened in the U.S. It's happened all over the place. It's insanity to think that you can continue to just ban things and think that you're going to change the hearts of people who actually want to kill people. It makes no sense. Mike, sorry for cutting you off. I wanted to jump in on that real quick.
I was also going to say that, I mean, even though, you know, the UK has a gun ban, aren't there still gun homicides happening over there? I mean,
yeah, they are.
People are still getting guns, and they're still doing evil things with them, even though they're banned. Like, I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
It's
I mean,
not entirely banned.
What's that?
It's not. It's more banned than we have it. There's still ways, but it's just really, really hard, and it's under such scrutiny. I think you can get an Uzi, but it's like really special licensing.
But there's like gun salesman.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, basically here, there you need to. I mean, the gun ownership is so low. They don't have a culture for it. They don't have. I mean.
And then just real quick, Paleo drop because he's listening. This was April 7th. It says updated on April 7th.
Oh, that's what mining as well said.
3 dead. Stuff. 3 dead after van drives into crowd in Munster, Germany.
We need to ban vans.
Yeah, right?
Well, we need to ban assault vans.
That's what I said. If only we had banned vans. If only we had banned cars.
Something similar happened in New York City over the holidays back in December.
Well, and then this is something he said. He says rent a U-Haul one way is $19.99, and it says of course it'll be one way. But yeah, well, it's $19.99. You pick a freaking location where numerous cities do this, especially more populated cities where there's just a group of people on the streets. You rent a van and you just plow through them, and you're guaranteed to kill people and really name some other ones.
Back in December, remember it was either Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve. In New York City, somebody actually got into a van or a truck and they drove into people. At Central Park, I think, or it was somewhere in New York City.
It was by the World Trade Centers, or no, it was in Times Square.
Where?
Times Square.
Oh, Times Square. That's right. Okay. Yeah, so I mean that's happened here. I mean, like last summer it happened in Nice, France, or that truck attack that happened in France.
Oh yeah, during Christmas.
I mean, you know, you actually see that. Well, I won't say more and more, but I mean, we've seen it more than once, and we've seen it in multiple places.
Did you guys see what I put in our chat here?
I haven't had the chance to pull it up yet. I'm working on it.
Call for fully automatic assault van ban.
Yes. Oh, is this a satire article, or is this?
I don't know. It looks very real.
It does look real. This cannot be. The headline is "Call for fully automatic assault van ban intensifies in response to France attack."
That has to be satire.
Please tell me this. I'm going to look at this website. I'm praying this is satire, but it looks like a legit news site, so I don't know. Okay, this has to be. Yeah, it is satire. If you scroll down to the very bottom, it says satire disclaimer.
Okay. No, it's real.
My favorite thing, though, is that right before it says satire disclaimer, it has a copyright thing, and it says all rights reserved. And then in quotes, there's the new slogan is "When news breaks, we usually get the blame." So yeah, no, that is a good satire website. That looks like a legit news site. It is amazing. But yeah, it makes a good point, though. I mean, that's why I love satire. Places like London, these places ban all guns, and then all of a sudden knife attacks become a problem. So what is their response? Well, we got to ban knives now. And it's like, have you not seen the pattern here? That it's not the tool, it's the person problem. Maybe we'll focus on
the legislators don't really care about.
Of course not.
Decreasing crime at all.
Yeah,
that's why they specifically say gun crime. They don't say all crime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nuts. Like, and just the fact that there can be like just chaos in the things that like in another one in Germany. I'm not sure if she was talking about the Munster one that we mentioned or not, but things like truck attacks are going to become more frequent the more you ban things like guns. Things like bombings, like as I've said, But making a bomb is super fucking easy. It's not difficult to make a bomb. And like if
Dude, stop talking
you know,
about
like
making bombs. You're in trouble.
you know, I got it. The NSA must love me because I talk about some crazy shit too. What was it? There was like one of the earlier web streams we did. I can't remember what we were talking about. I was just like, man, we were gonna get so banned. Like I'm gonna get so banned from YouTube for this shit.
Nukes.
Yes, nukes, bombs. Make your own bomb, everybody. No, it's insane though. Like it's easy to do a lot of this stuff. It's like in all honesty, it is really easy to kill a person. People are fragile. We're not hard to kill. So like if you want to kill a person, you don't need a lot. You don't need like a lot of stuff. Like you can kill a person with a fucking cinder block if you want to. Like there are so many just average everyday items we use that you can use to kill a fucking person if you want to. So it's like if it was a problem of like a tool being like the responsibility for a person wanting to kill another person, everybody would already be fucking dead, because
if you look at the FBI statistics, you see a lot of those everyday items that you talk about: hammers, baseball bats, tools, knives. I mean, you see those in the FBI's homicide statistics.
Yeah,
and there are actually more of those than gun homicides.
Well, yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. And I mean, like you go ahead and look at any country that has banned guns, and it's not as if they're like, well, we ban guns and we don't have all these problems with gun violence. I'm like, yeah, but you have all kinds of other violence. You have gun violence, and you have fucking acid attacks overseas now. It's a big thing. It's become so frequent. I can't remember which news site it was, but it was some like London news site, and they actually have this like here was the article was how to do your makeup after an acid attack. Like they had normalized it so much, the media, as if it's so common and it's so normal that we're going to talk about how you do your makeup after you have one.
A woman was banned from school because she didn't want to wear a burqa. I'm like, what the fuck?
A what?
So, the burqa thing.
Oh,
what country was this? I can't remember what exactly it was, but I'm like, what the fuck?
Sounds like Saudi Arabia or something.
No, it was in the Western country.
What?
Yes.
No way.
Get the fuck out. That's nuts.
I cannot remember exactly when or where I saw the tweet.
If you can find a link for that madness, I would love to read that because that sounds that's fucking crazy. That is crazy.
Then I have to go look who the fuck made the tweet again. I should have shared my group.
That's insane, though.
Oh, to that.
But I mean, I feel like it just like I think the point, like I can't drive this point home enough that it is not the tool that is the problem, it's the person. Because if you look at any country that has banned guns, it's not as if they banned violence. Like violence doesn't leave when guns leave. Violence stays, and it transforms into acid attacks, knife attacks, people driving a goddamn truck through crowds. Violence is there. It's always going to be there. So let's the thing we need to be more concerned about is, well, what do we do to combat that? How do we fix that problem? Because that's never discussed. That's never talked upon. If you mention mental health after a fucking gun attack, people on the left, anti-gun people, lose their fucking minds. Like you're an asshole for bringing it up, and it's like, no, let's talk about that. Is that the only problem? Not necessarily, because there's some people who mental health. It's not a mental health issue. They're just evil. But we need to discuss the root of the problem, not necessarily the tools that are being used. Because as any country so far that has eliminated guns or banned guns to the best of their ability shows, violence doesn't go away. You can't, like violence is murder is already illegal. Like throwing acid in somebody's face is already illegal, but
except the UK apparently.
Yeah, it doesn't stop people from doing it. So it's like, well, what do we do to fix the problem of people wanting to do that? How do we do anything about that? Instead, we're wrapped up on the issue of guns. In the West, at least, in the U.S. And there's these things. There's I
just have one thing.
Go ahead.
What we talked about last stream as well is that what Schmerkel said, that people with autism should not have a gun. I don't know what the rest of think of that.
That's something
it depends.
I want to discuss this sometime when we can. This is a topic I would definitely want to bring up with some Think Liberty people, because there are some Second Amendment people, purists, who are there's nothing that should prevent a person from having a gun. But this is a good crowd where I would like to bring up the topic real quick. On that thing is, if you have a pre-existing mental health,
I cannot get a gun.
Yeah, if you have a pre-existing mental health condition, just something like autism, not like schizophrenia or something, should that prevent you from having a gun?
No.
What do you think, Mike? Pat, what do you guys got to say? I know this is it's not something you can I feel like it's something you have to think on too. But just off the top of your head, your first reaction, what would you say?
I think you have to prove that the person who you're saying is, mentally handicapped in whatever way is a danger to themselves or to society before taking away their right.
Mm-hmm.
I think it doesn't matter the circumstance. If they're autistic, as long as they're not a danger to themselves, and you have to have a pretty damn good case to take that right away from them.
Here's a thought, just real quick, before for the very heavy severe cases of autism, can they even are they even capable of getting a gun? I'm not saying rights wise, but would they even want to get a gun? I mean, when was the last time you saw a fully autistic
who cannot handle loud noises? They will not get a gun.
Right. So why would? So I think the severity could. It should only be an issue if the gun owner. I think that then it comes on to maybe even the gun the gun shop guy, people in the gun shop. If a person is coming in and showing very clear signs of severe autism, you could deny them the sale.
Well, I think that's something too, is a gun owner has every right to prevent, to just not make a sale. Paleo saying another thing, my OCD should not keep me from getting a gun. There are a lot of for me, I have depression and generalized anxiety disorder, PTSD. But if I wanted to go get a gun, a gun is not going to make me want to go kill anybody. It's just not. There's nothing. If I had a gun, it would be for two purposes. One is self-defense, and two, just to go shoot. Because that's honestly, if there's one thing I missed from the military, is just shooting guns. It was fun. It's like a stress reliever, to be honest. Just going to a range and firing off some rounds. That's fun. But you get people will get picky and choosy on what could stop you from getting a gun. He has PTSD, he shouldn't have a gun, or he has depression because I have a problem with depression. If I have a gun, I'm going to kill myself, kind of thing. And that's there's a lot of misconceptions there when it comes to mental health issues and guns. I feel like.
Well, I prefer my general take on government is they should legislate the majority, and then they should look at the minority individually. So with something like mental disorders of any degree and gun ownership, they should look at that case by case.
From the chat, Chaos Eve says autism is considered a spectrum now by psychologists. It really depends on where they fall on it. So, but and this is to you, to Chaos, if you're still listening. Do you think that if a psychologist feels like a person might be dangerous, would they have the right to step in and talk to the government and say this person should be barred from owning a gun?
But it's still the case. People who have you say, people with mental illness no longer can get a gun. That means that people who have gender dysphoria cannot get a gun as well, because gender dysphoria is a mental disorder.
Well, I don't think that is an actual blockade. Yeah, like there's a lot of mental disorders.
You have a lot of fucking people who you cannot get guns anymore.
I don't know. I haven't read anything about that. I actually have to talk to some trans people, like Maya or somebody. But
gender dysphoria is a mental disorder.
There's a lot of mental health disorders that'll just completely slip under the radar. But like for me as a vet, is one thing is like if the VA feels that I'm not responsible enough to have a gun, they can actually block me from having a gun. You know, it's ridiculous. And this is something they've actually done with veterans. They've made it where certain veterans can't have a gun because their mental health providers say, "Oh no, you're not like safe enough to have a gun," kind of thing.
Well, even if you look at like what Trump repealed, and the left went crazy because they said it was like they made it easier for mentally handicapped to get rights. What he repealed said that people who needed help filling out Social Security would not be able to buy guns.
Yeah, that's nuts. Yeah. From the chat, Michael? I think Michael Gill says it's a slippery slope. And this is a good point he brings up here. If someone gets mildly depressed as a teen and wants a gun as a healthy adult, does it prohibit him or her?
No.
And that's a good point, because some people would be like, well, you know, if this person has depression, they shouldn't have a gun because they might kill themselves. And I was like, well, what if this person actually like gets significantly better, but it's on their record that they have depression?
Depression as well. There's like literally the ones that people are born with, and people that more like it's non-current state of mind, so to speak.
Real quick, KSE brings up, which is another good point. Psychologists are legally obligated to let the authorities know if they think the patient is a danger, which, yes, that is true. And there's a difference between like, you know, saying a patient has autism or saying a patient has like schizophrenia that's actually being handled well, or has depression or something like that. But like, there's a difference between just simply being diagnosed with
disorder. I actually knew someone who had Asperger's, had gender dysphoria, had bipolar disorder, and had schizophrenia.
Yeah, there's a difference between simply being diagnosed with a mental health condition and actually being like a potential danger to people. Some people with mental health condition could be dangerous.
I could say she was. She literally sometimes saw things that didn't exist.
But I think,
like, okay, then you would be in danger.
I think what Chaos brought up was a good point, though. Is like if the psychologists actually think this person is a danger, is that a line where you can say, yes, this person should be barred from having a gun? Like if a professional, but like is that a line that could also be crossed, where somebody who isn't a danger, but just because of a and hey, bye Paleo, thanks for dropping in. You were good in the chat here. I know you didn't get a chance to talk today, but hopefully you'll get a chance to talk some other time. I appreciate you stopping by, man. So
his idea was pretty good. With that,
Chaos. If you want to join, feel free to join. Do you have the?
I already said that to her in the group chat that you could join.
If the link is in the group chat, Chaos. If you want to join, I would love to have you on, because you're having a hard time typing, and or you're not being able to type fast enough, and you're making some great points that I feel like we should really discuss. So I would love it if you could join, Chaos. Definitely join. But I feel like that's the thing is that's a problem when it comes down to a psychologist's discretion. You know, is this person wrong? Is this, you know, because like there's a thing is when we were talking the other night. It wasn't last night, was it? Maybe we did last stream. The other night, where I said we were talking about Eichenwald. And, I made the point. My wife made the point of psychologists say like they fuck up and they say stupid shit sometimes, you know, or they're people too and they make mistakes.
Well, so no matter what, it has to go through the courts still.
Yeah.
Like just because a psychiatrist recommends it does not take your right away.
And it should be that way, honestly. Like if a psychiatrist recommends it, I honestly feel like there should be like an immediate, like we need to have a second opinion on that. Like we can't just have this one person make a life-altering decision for a person, or whether or not they have the ability to defend themselves.
Or even have to go before a board. I mean, you know, some kind of like medical board. Have to go before the board.
That's a good point too.
Might I add,
go ahead.
I think leftists should be banned from owning guns.
I don't.
But how many leftists actually own guns? No, there are some. I know, but
I think that's a dangerous sentiment.
I'm sure
enough for you to type
I'm not entirely
don't deserve
serious.
a gun.
I'm sure many leftists don't own guns because they're worried if they own a gun, they're going to suddenly like become evil and want to kill everybody around them or something.
Well,
I was like the Punisher.
I was in a Twitter argument with Michael Ian Black, and I
well, he was responding to you?
Yeah.
Nice.
And
wow.
If you argue with me on Twitter, I'm pretty calm. Like, I don't attack, really.
You're chill on Twitter, bad. Like you're good on there.
And
I give you props for that.
Eve is here.
Yeah, Eve is here.
I told him it's ironic what he was doing because he's never actually practiced the Second Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Oh no, I've practiced it." He's like, "Practice as in I've shot guns before." I'm just like, that's not the Second Amendment.
That's not the same. Shooting a gun isn't the same as actually practicing the Second Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
So Chaos, welcome to the stream. If you want to hop in about, because we were talking about, like we were mentioning, like with the mental health stuff, as if, you know, if a psychologist was to, I think a few people, Amos and somebody else brought up, as if a mental health person was to decide that a person wasn't able to own a gun, that it shouldn't be upon that one psychologist. It should go before a board of people. Like there should be second opinions and stuff like that. So where do you stand on that, Chaos?
I'd say, like, you know, initially it would probably be for everyone's best interest that they're not initially allowed to get a gun, but especially if they think there's a danger. But going forward, yes, they should be presented to like a board. They should be evaluated by a second opinion, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the thing is because like when we were talking the other day, my wife, who is a mental health professional, brought up, she's a marriage and family therapist, but you know, when we were talking about Eichenwald, who tried to say Kyle Kashev was like in need of psychiatric help, and she was like, well, you know, psychiatrists are, you know, psychiatrists, they're people, they make mistakes. So having one person being able to like to decide whether or not you're allowed to defend yourself, you know, like there are probably psychiatrists out there that would sit down with me and be like, yeah, he shouldn't have a gun. You know, but most people who would actually get to know me would also be like, no, there's no reason why he shouldn't have a gun because he's not a danger to himself or any other people. And I do feel like, you know, it shouldn't be on the back of one person to make that decision, because I do feel like restricting a person's gun ownership is a life-altering decision, because you're taking away their ability to defend themselves properly. So that decision shouldn't be on the back of just one person. Right.
That's, you know, basically taking away one of their rights that they
exactly. Get. Yeah, and it's a huge decision. It's a huge it's a big deal, because it's one of your fundamental rights to be able to defend yourself. And in this world where there are bad guys with guns, the best way to defend yourself is to be, you know, have a gun yourself. And even like, you know, I mean, there are elderly people, or like women or men who are less like physical, who can't actually like physically stand up to a person. A gun can be that, you know, not even the odds, but put the odds in your favor as the person defending yourself. Because that's what the things always kills me, is because like, well, people shouldn't have guns, and like, you know, like they should learn self-defense or have a knife. And I'm like, yeah, but they're like, you know, what about a woman, or even like guys? Because I've met guys who are like super fucking weak, you know, they're just like skinny little frail things. And it's like, well, you know, isn't it unfair for them? Like, you know, like you're saying, you know, they don't have the physical capacity to stand up, like to like physically stand up to somebody. To take away a gun, like something that actually gives them an even ground at least, or they step up to defend themselves, to just take that away from them, even like taking out the mental health stuff, to take away stuff like that from them is so it's shitty. You know,
well, it's like the story that was shared in the Twitter group yesterday. I don't know if you guys already covered it, about the one about the guy the 3 teenagers broke into his house and he shot.
Yeah. Okay, that story came from last year, but
well, in that situation, it was 3-on-1. He didn't know what they had. It was probably the middle of the night. it was dark. All he knew is that 3 people were in his house, and he needed to defend himself and his family. And
where was this?
This was I don't remember what state. This was a story from like last year. Mance Raider shared a picture about it, so I googled it, and this is something I wanted to bring up. It was a guy who, like, 3 teenagers broke into his house, and he ended up shooting them because he had no idea what was going on. He was scared, he was freaked out. And then, like, this teen's, like, grandfather was like, it was the AR-15 made it an unfair fight. I'm like, no, it made it very fair, because, what's unfair is breaking into somebody's house and stealing their shit, or like potentially being a danger to this person. And I'm like, I'm sorry, like, the AR-15, like, gave that guy, it gave that guy the edge, like, to actually, like, as far as like the capacity to take somebody's life. But, he was able to defend himself, because who fucking knows, like, what could have escalated there. But, I mean, if you're scared for your life, like, shooting like that is, when in your own home, you're in your own home, and somebody who's not supposed to be there is there. If you have a gun and you feel like your best defense is to fire your weapon, like, of course you should be able to do that. You should be allowed to defend yourself. To say that makes it unfair is insane, as if, like, there should be a fair and equal balance between the homeowner and the fucking burglar breaking in.
Like, of course you can rebel some bullshit. He was pissed that his grandson died.
Real quick from the chat, Polydub says, does anybody know if the Massachusetts ruling includes AR-like rifles and carbines?
Yes.
Okay. So it's not just ARs. It's all things that they consider assault rifles, like, so similar to the AR. Okay.
It's all semi-automatic rifles that use a magazine to operate. So any bolt-action rifle is fine, as long as you have to insert each round after the shot. Revolvers are fine. Like, over-under shotguns are fine. Side-by-side shotguns are fine. Any break action, basically.
Well, and you said earlier, like, didn't they even like include some pistols in that, or is that all
pistols?
All semi-automatic pistols? Jesus Christ, that's insane.
This goes back to DC and Heller. DC versus Heller, pistols were considered rifles, and that's why they weren't allowed in DC.
That's so crazy, and but what's insane. And here's something we haven't even talked about yet. Does Massachusetts, as a state, have the right to override the Second Amendment?
It depends. The 10th Amendment is well, first of all, the Constitution was only meant to apply to the federal government. The 10th Amendment says that any powers not granted in the Constitution belongs to the state and to the people. And the 14th Amendment, makes it so that the states have to follow the Constitution. Basically, it says that the states cannot deprive the people of their rights. And there was also a Supreme Court ruling, I have it somewhere, but I don't have it in front of me, that says specifically for guns that I think it's somebody versus Chicago, specifically says that guns are the right of the people as an individual, not according to, not like the states can't infringe on their rights.
I mean, and here's me personally, I feel there's some weird noise going on. States should have the right to legislate a lot of their own laws. I feel like the federal government is overpowered in many ways, but I do feel like the individual rights, like the right to self-defense, which to me includes gun ownership, is not something that should ever be able to be infringed on by either the federal government or the state government. So as far as, like, legality aside, morally, how does everybody feel about that? Should they have the right?
Absolutely, yeah.
The state should have the right to revoke gun ownership?
Oh, sorry. I think the individual should have the right to self-defense. I like what's deleted.
Yeah. Well, what I'm asking now is, should the states have the right to override that? And Chaos, don't apologize. I actually love that there's an invasion in the chat. It's amazing. So
may or may not appreciate it here in a minute. So
no, that's totally fine. It's great. We got more viewers than I've had in a while. So I'd like from everybody, if everybody wants to, like, chime in one at a time, though, like legality wise, like not legality wise, but morality wise, should the states be allowed to interfere with something like the Second Amendment for personal defense? whoever wants to jump in first go, but I'd like everybody to have a chance to chime in on that.
I would say morally, no. Morally, any government, state or federal, do not have the right to dictate what a citizen who is not infringing on other people's freedoms should do.
Yeah. Amos or Mike?
I would say no.
Okay.
I'm going to say no because, I mean, all the rights outlined in the Bill of Rights, well, at least for the first, the second, they pertain to individual rights. So, and I don't think those are rights that should be, taken away by any entity, whether it be the federal government, state government, whatever. So I'm going to say no, they shouldn't be able to.
The whole idea of inalienable rights, it's the thing that a lot of people don't quite understand when it comes to rights is in the US, the rights are already there, and the state is there to make sure they're being protected. But regardless of if there's a state to protect them or not, they still exist.
Yeah.
So having a right to bear arms came before 1776.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something I always say. I feel like a lot of the Bill of Rights, the federal government didn't grant you that right. The Bill of Rights is there to protect those rights. It's a natural right you're supposed to have. For a state to step in and say, no, you don't get to have that right, I feel is morally wrong. Eve, Chaos, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, it's basically what I was going to say was that it's not a right that's been granted to you so much as it is a mandate that the government is not to interfere with that natural right.
Yeah. So you say when it comes down to the state, morally, should they be allowed to have a right to step in and actually restrict gun ownership?
See, here's the part where I get fuzzy. Back when that law was made, things like tanks and missile rocket launchers and things were not a thing. They were talking about guns. So where do we draw the line as to what should and shouldn't be allowed?
You got to look at historically. You look at this thing called the puckle gun.
What for gun?
The puckle gun in the early 1700s.
Yeah, it's
was basically the closest thing you get to an actual machine gun. It was a hand cranked weapon. I think it was a hand cranked. Yeah,
it was.
And it was multi-shot. You could get a few dozen shots off in about a minute, I'd say, right?
Well, I think that's the wrong argument to make. I think legally the right argument to make is that at the time of its drafting, individual private gun ownership was already cemented in common law in both England and in America. So, and the fact that absolutely none of the founders thought that only the militia should have guns. All the founders believed that personal gun ownership was a right.
Yeah, and that's the thing. What Amos brought up too, though, I think is the point that it's great to make is that because people are like, well, the founders couldn't have possibly conceived of weapons we have now, but there were things like he talked about. There were it was hand cranked, water cooled, but it was an automatic weapon. There were.
Then you have cannons, battleships.
Yeah.
People would actually before we had before our military was that strong, people would actually help the government by basically commissioning their small militias. They would raise an army. Yeah, that's where that was kind of there.
And this is the thing, because if you talk to somebody I'm not I've described myself as a minarchist with ANCAP tendencies, but if you talk to somebody who's there's people who are ANCAPs who we shouldn't have a military, and everybody's like, well, what would we do to defend ourselves? I'm like, well, wouldn't we have 108 million fucking gun owners? Do you really not think that we can't defend ourselves as a country if we really needed to? That was supposed to be part of the thing, is that us as a country without a military, we could defend ourselves. We could defend ourselves individually. We can defend ourselves as a group, as a nation, without needing an actual ridiculously overblown military that we have now. Where it has this massive fucking budget.
You could have community-funded security firms.
Yeah. I think, and that's part of the thing now is because when we talk about military, we're always thinking on this grand scale, and this grand scale, as of the last, like, I don't know, several decades, has just been us interfering where we don't really necessarily belong. So I'm like, how many since World War II, how many overseas engagements have we been in that was actually warranted, you know? And that comes down to personal opinion.
Well,
but like how many were not just warranted, but how many like actually like we had to go because if we didn't go, our nation was at a risk. Not necessarily helping other people, but us as a nation were we at risk if we didn't involve ourselves in these overseas conflicts. And I know that's a very personalized opinion thing. So this is what I'm opening it up. If anybody, jump in with your opinions, because I'd actually really love to hear them.
I mean, is the domino effect a thing?
Yeah.
I mean, that was one argument for going to all the communists, going in some communist nations.
But okay, let's look at Vietnam. We pulled out and like. Our involvement there didn't really do anything, and then let's look at Korea. Korea is still, that's not even like that's a ceasefire, like we haven't really solidly like done anything for Korea.
Didn't do anything in China.
Didn't do anything in China. Yeah, so it's like what engagements since World War II have we like got ourselves in that have actually like justified, like where we can justify it by saying yes, if we didn't get in that engagement, our country would have been at risk. Is there one?
War.
What's the Iraq War?
I even doubt that even.
I think World War II was really the last necessary engagement. That's because we were attacked.
Yeah, we held out and we got attacked.
Apparently, the place that was attacked was not a boat where actual people were going. It was actually a type of boat where actually a lot of arsenal was on.
And I would actually
did self-defense when they attacked America for the first time.
Real quick, Pat had to drop out. He said he had to go at 10:30. So, Pat, if you're like watching this, real quick, just thank you so much for joining us. You were actually really great. I love it when you come on the show. You always have so much good input. I would like to say though, like I would agree. World War II was the last one where I felt like you could justifiably say, like, if we didn't get involved, it in the long run would have been bad for our nation. But like when we're looking at our the Cold War conflicts, and then the Middle East conflicts we're in now, especially the Middle East, like, can we really say that yes, it's a good thing we went over there for the sake of our nation, not for the sake of the people over there? That's a whole another argument. But for the sake of our nation, for our citizens. Like, did that actually protect them from anything? Because I honestly feel, especially in the Middle East, in the long run, all it's done is put us even more in the crosshairs. Like our involvement in the Middle East has opened us up to like all kinds of horrible shit. I feel like we're constantly creating our worst enemies.
Mm-hmm.
What justifies military involvement, would you say, in your opinion?
Yeah, and that's the hard one for me. I would have to say, like, and I'm not going to speak from the position of America. I want to speak from the position of just any nation. I would have to feel like your like direct nation has to be at risk in some way. You have to feel like
as an attack on your homeland, or
yes.
What if they bombed like a base we had in some country?
It's really too big guns and guns. Eve is just asking something. I was reading it out loud.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that where it becomes really subjective, and that's where it becomes really, really difficult to like pin down. Because like I would say, because there are people who will say that yes, the conflicts in Vietnam and Korea and our conflicts overseas right now are warranted because it's for the sake of our nation. And I would say, no, all we're doing overseas right now is creating worse problems for ourselves. But there are people who will say, and that's where it becomes down to a matter of opinion. And like, you have to really be able to try to justify it. And the best I can say is that, like, if you have been attacked directly, or you feel that like if there is reasonable like belief, like I feel like in World War II with like Germany, like Japan attacked. So when it comes to Germany, like it was very reasonable to expect them to eventually attack us with their being allied with Japan, and Japan basically saying like we are gonna like attack you and go to war with you. It was reasonable then, I feel like, to say yes, like that was in our best interest. It was in our self-defense eventually in the long run as a nation to go to war with Germany, because I honestly don't feel like we necessarily just went to war with Germany. We went to war with like an allied group, you know, like if Japan was allied with Germany, we probably wouldn't have messed with Germany. But because there was an alliance there, we couldn't just go to a war with one country. We had to go to war with the whole alliance. Go ahead, Mike.
I was saying you have to remember that Germany declared war on us after we declared war on Japan, because they attacked us on December 7th. We declared war on Japan December 8th, and then December 10th or 11th, Germany declared war on us.
That the Nazi attacked?
What's that?
You mean the boat that the Nazi attacked? That boat had the people on it?
No,
because that was apparently one of the reasons why USA went into war with Nazi Germany. But there has been now things come out that apparently it was not a boat where there's people on it, like normal citizens, shit like that. It was actually a boat with arsenal on it.
There's some like.
So the reason why USA went into war with Germany is a false lie, basically.
Well, there's some suspect as to like whether or not we actually like technically attacked Japan first in Pearl Harbor was retaliation. I know there was some like talk about there was an overseas like engagement with 2 warships and stuff like that, and there's all kinds of stuff. But I do honestly like I truly do believe in like the case of World War II, there was a direct threat to the U.S. The Axis powers, you know, they didn't have an intention of just staying in Europe, you know, like they were expanding, like that's the whole concept of Nazism, and what they wanted to do was to constantly expand Japan. They wanted to expand, you know, like it was the entire foundation of their beliefs was to expand and take over. You know, they wouldn't have stopped at just overseas, you know, they would have kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And while we didn't like immediately feel that threat because we were on the other side of the world, you know, Pearl Harbor just alone shows you that they weren't afraid to take that step. So we can't really say to what, like, you know, when it would have become a problem, but I honestly don't think it's out of step to say, yes, it definitely would have been an issue if we hadn't stepped in when we did at one point. I don't know how everybody else feels about that. Chaos, you've been quiet for a while. What do you say?
I'm sorry, the subject kind of derailed into World War II. I don't know what we're talking about anymore.
Well, like, what do you think? Do you think, like, when it comes to something like, getting back to the original topic, like, as far as national defense, because the original question Amos proposed was, at what point is like national defense going to war justified?
Well, since he won't show up and make the point himself, Polydub was making the point in chat, and I thought it was a really good one. Maybe the line should be drawn at discrimination as to where, like, for example, a rifle you can hit one target at a time with, but something like a landmine or an RPG can hit multiple targets at once. And so that maybe perhaps those types of things shouldn't be available to the general public. Maybe those should be regulated by a militia or something like that.
Oh, man.
Well, here's the thing, like, yeah.
But I want nukes.
When we talk about military weapons, because everybody's like, well, the rifle is, and I'm like, and I look back and like just my section in the basic training on U.S. weapons of machine guns and the AT-4, which was is just a fucking rocket launcher, the like Claymore mine and all this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, that's not available to the public. It's not like military weapons are just being sold, like the fucking AR-15, the closest thing, like civilian thing to the M16 being sold on the open market. That is like one of the worst things that the U.S. Army has to offer, and that's what we're selling to the public. Who gives a shit? Like it's like the really dangerous stuff that the U.S. Army has. Like if that was being sold, like maybe we could have a different conversation about that. But you know, like I think you brought up a good point of like certain things being militia regulated, because there is the point in the Second Amendment of a well-regulated militia. So do we say like certain weapons, certain like significantly dangerous weapons be like should they not be the ability to be owned by an individual citizen, but have to be owned by a militia and regulated by a militia? Like, what would you guys say on that?
Here, I actually just found something here. If you want to look at my screen,
yeah, go for it.
You can actually you can get claymores.
Claymores.
Oh,
you're talking about swords.
Claymore swords.
We had a discussion about that. Like, didn't we, the other day, where we were talking about like, could you open carry a sword in different states?
I found out claymores.
I found out in Indiana you can open carry a sword just walking down the street if you wanted to. You could just have a sword on your back. Like, that was amazing.
I went to Google. I typed in claymore.
Yeah.
Here in Tennessee, they recently lifted the past couple of years the limitation on the length of knives.
Oh yeah, well, because Manus was talking about before, and I know this is the thing in some places, like the knife couldn't be longer than like the palm of your hand. What was the limitation for you there?
Not the vertical, but the horizontal part of your hand.
Yeah. What was the limitation where you were, Chaos?
I want to say it was like 4, maybe 5 inches.
Okay.
At most. It may be less than that.
That's about the length of your hand, yeah. So that, okay. Well, it's shorter, but yeah.
But it was originally enacted 100, 150, 200 years ago to stop duels from happening because people were bringing swords and stabbing each other to death.
That's insane. Like, yeah, that you have to like that was recently like fixed. Well, you said.
Yeah, in the past, I want to say it was the past 2 or 3 years, because they were probably like, well, this is a dumb rule to leave on the books because people are shooting each other with guns now. So technically, in Tennessee, you can carry a sword around as long as it's, you know.
Yeah, but isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting though, that there was a law on the books until just a few years ago to stop people from fucking dueling with knives and swords? That they like had to finally be like, oh, maybe we shouldn't keep that going. Like, that's just how. Like, when, okay, and here's the thing, when everybody was always like there's something that happens and everybody's like, well, there should be a law, and I'm always like, no, there should not be a law, because like chances are there's already a law. Like, let's not make more laws and just add to this ridiculous pile of laws. Like, that's like usually when there's a law that's named after a specific person, I'm like already against that law, because I'm like, chances are what you're trying to outlaw is already illegal, and all you're doing is adding on more restrictions or more like complications to the law that make it more ridiculous and more outlandish and like just more complicated. It gives you it does give you the ability to add on more charges for a suspect.
Like, if you make more rules, the more rules, the more big the chance that people will make mistakes in the rules, because they cannot remember every rule, and there's more chance loopholes exist that people can abuse.
Anybody, like, look up, like, wherever you live, look, especially in the U.S., because I know this is a thing.
I know from my country that there are fucking rules upon rules and loopholes upon loopholes, because they don't remove rules, they keep adding them, and it becomes a clusterfuck of rules.
And that's exactly what the U.S. does. But I'm like, anybody in the U.S., like, you can, and I know this because there are books published about this. If you just look online, like your state, just your state alone, and like type in like to Google search like silly state laws or something like that, there are so many ridiculous laws on the books, and like ones that remain there for a long time. Like, they're just stupid ass ones. And I'm actually gonna try to look up one now, but like, it's insane, like all these laws that get on the books, and then they're forgotten about, and then everybody's just like, let's do more laws, and there should be a law for this, there should be a law for that, and then all it does is it just kind of like expands this like perpetual this clusterfuck of laws of just bullshit, and like, you know, eventually like just doing anything to be considered illegal, like one way or another. And that's one of the things I always hate, the whole like ignorance of the law is not an excuse. And I'm like, bullshit. If you don't know something was illegal, like obvious things like the speed limit and things like that, yeah, of course that's illegal. But like little things, like if you didn't know it was illegal and it wasn't like an obvious law thing, like how are you supposed to know that? Like, are you supposed to have searched every fucking law? I typed in Indiana silly, and silly laws was the first thing to come up.
I think laws are kind of like the Bible. easily misinterpreted, and everyone's doing it wrong.
It's true. Okay, real quick. Dumb laws in Indiana. One of the first one that should pop up. Hotel sheets must be exactly 99 inches long and 81 inches wide. Who fucking cares?
Tall people.
Yeah. Second one, and this is I'm just reading this. I haven't even read this yet. So like as I'm reading this, I'm like I have no idea what it's saying. If any person has a puppet show, wire dancing, or tumbling act in the state of Indiana and receives money for it, they will be fined $3 under the Act to prevent certain immoral practices.
$3. Good.
Hold on.
This is an Indiana law.
$6 then. Make $4 to make a profit.
You need to make at least $4 to profit. But here's the thing. It's under the Act to prevent certain immoral practices. A goddamn puppet show. Like, why is a puppet show under the Act to prevent immoral practice? Are puppet shows like inherently immoral? Here's a good one. If anyone
puppet shows that you could make.
Here's one that is sure to piss off people. Anyone 14 or older who profanely curses, damns, or swears by the name of God, Jesus Christ, or the Holy Ghost shall be fined $1 to $3 for each offense with a maximum fine of $10 per day.
So is this in Indiana?
Jesus Christ, I would be so fucking in debt right now. Yes, it's Indiana. Indiana's a very red state, so I'm not surprised.
Just be like, Father, fucking Holy Son and Ghost.
I seriously, for fuck's sake,
ranking up that bill.
I would be so in debt right now if I had to pay that shit. Like, I couldn't even calculate. I would be in debt. Like, I would be I would owe everything to the government at this point. Because
remember Demolition Man?
Yes, that's what it makes me think of. No, there are places. Virginia Beach was brought up because I've been to Virginia Beach, and there's actually signs. You cannot, you could be fined for swearing. Anything that can be perceived as a swear, you can be actually legit.
Swear or foul mouthery.
Perceived swearing. So
and that's what kills me. Is it's a perceived swear? Because to me, the word piss and ass aren't really swears. Those are just words.
They're foul mouth words.
But other people can be like,
there's a difference between the two, and most people keep fucking mixing the two, and it's fucking annoying.
It's insane.
Back in my dad's day, the word to say something sucked was pretty bad. What'd you say?
Real quick, one of the laws, because I'm reading through some of these laws. One may not sniff glue.
Wait.
That's a legitimate law.
What's the fine?
That's a legit law on the books in Indiana.
What's the fine?
It doesn't say. It just says one may not. It is illegal for a man to be sexually aroused in public. What?
Well, it depends what you then do with it. I can see the problem, but
holy shit,
does this happen?
Okay,
don't you dare walk in public with a hidden boner.
Baths may not be taken between the months of October and March. See, and that's what I'm talking about.
October and March. Between those months, you can't take a bath. Or all males 18 to 50 years old must work 6 days a year on public roads. Oral sex is illegal in Indiana.
Those type of rules. There were states that apparently Asian sex is I believe there's one state.
Here's the thing. Here's another law.
Fuck's sake, only missionary. How the fuck
real quick. Here's one.
You didn't do shit.
No one may catch a fish with his bare hands, and I feel like the wording there it leaves it open for women to be able to catch fish with their bare hands because it's bare hands. Or if you wear gloves,
cut someone else's hands off and use their hands for it.
if you're wearing gloves, you're like, dude, I didn't catch it with my bare hands. Joke's on you.
Yeah. No, but every state and country have this stupid and retarded laws. How the fuck are those rules still in existence?
This is what I'm saying, though. It's there's so many laws on the books. It's impossible to impose all of them and to just add more. Every time there's there should be a law. I'm always like, no, there should not be a law. Fuck you. No, there should not be a law. Let's not add laws upon top of laws upon top of laws.
Yeah.
That's how we end up with just so much bullshit.
Okay, loopholes in ink. Because laws are going to contradict each other.
You want to hear some Minnesota laws?
Yes.
Oh, you've left. Oh, you've been back.
The land of 10,000 lakes declares mosquitoes a public nuisance.
Yeah.
Oh, mosquitoes
I'm okay with that one. Mosquitoes.
Like, we have a saying here in Minnesota: the further up north in the state you are, the bigger the mosquitoes. It is illegal to stand around any building without a good reason to be there. That's
just a loitering law, though.
Okay, so here's the full text of the law. Minnesota Statute 609.725, vagrancy. Any of the following are vagrants and are guilty of a misdemeanor. 1. Subsection 1, a person with ability to work who is without lawful means of support, does not seek employment, and is not under 18 years of age, or a person found in loitering near any structure, vehicle, or private grounds who is there without the consent of the owner and is unable to account for being there, or a prostitute who loiters on the streets or in a public place, in a place open to the public, with intent to solicit for immoral purposes, which is highly subjective, or a person who derives support in whole or in part from begging, or as a fortune teller, or similar imposter.
That is so oddly specific. Good Lord.
A person may not cross state lines with a duck on top of his head.
Yeah, there are crazy laws like that on the books. And so, yeah, like it's insane. And that's what
I was going to say, there was a TV show that CMT was trying to do a number of years ago where they went around to towns and exposed crazy small laws like this. That were just stupid.
I would have loved to watch that.
Here's a really funny
one. Off the ground, but
here's a really funny one.
I would crowdfund that shit.
It is illegal to sleep naked.
I'm fucked. I would be fucked then.
Oh my God.
I used to, because like when I was in the army, like in the summer, those barracks rooms would get like ridiculously hot. So hell yeah, I slept naked because like just wearing even boxers, I would be like burning up, sweating my ass off. I'm not gonna wear
all men driving motorcycles must wear shirts.
I can kind of see that.
But still, I mean,
I'm fine with that in certain instances because there's sometimes that I'm driving and a motorcycle pulls up next to me and I'm like, gross.
Okay.
Yeah.
Citizens may not enter Wisconsin. Now remember the duck law.
I'm sorry. I would love it if the law just ended there because that's fucking hilarious, especially because my wife is from Wisconsin.
Citizens may not enter Wisconsin with a chicken on top of their head.
Oh, good word.
Here's what I would love to like
how did this law become into existence?
People talk like if they had a time machine, like I'd go back and stop Hitler and all this stuff. And I'm like, if I had a time machine, I'd go back to when laws like that were written. Like, why?
Maybe you are the cause that this law were written.
Why can't we have
going by type of will become the cause?
Like, I would love to know though, like what was happening so frequently that they were like, all right, we need to make a law about this. Too many people are going to Wisconsin with chickens on their heads. Like, let's fix this problem once and for all.
Oral sex is prohibited.
Yes. Oral. No, here's the thing.
That's like every state.
Oral and anal sex are prohibited in like so many states. And I'm like,
there is one state only missionaries are allowed. That even masturbation is shit only missionary. Like, how does it work in certain instances?
So here's a fun one. All bathtubs must not have feet.
Hey, we have 2 each here.
Kansas City has feet.
All bathtubs must not have feet.
Yeah, Kansas City has a law that you can't have 4 legs in a bathtub.
Yeah,
where the feet resemble animal paws. But Missouri has a tax that is very discriminatory, which I just now found out about. In Missouri, all males between the ages of 21 and 50 must pay an annual tax of $1. It was enacted in 1820.
What?
That is discriminatory. I feel singled out having to pay this tax of $1. I think it's unfair. I should not have to pay this $1 just for being a 37-year-old male in Missouri.
There's so many insane laws.
So here's now it has city laws. In the city of Cottage Grove, Minnesota, airplanes may not be landed in city parks.
Please tell me someone actually tried that. That's why they got it.
I like that was apparently a problem at one point in time, that they were like, hey, let's stop this from happening.
Oh my gosh, okay, this is actually really good. Hibbing, Minnesota, it's way up north. It shall be the duty of any policeman or any other officer to enforce the provisions of this section. And if any cat is found running at large, or which is found in any street, alley, or public place, it shall be the duty of any policeman or other officer of the city to kill such cat.
What?
Oh my God.
That is absolutely fucking insane.
Oh man, that's fucking awesome. Hey guys, real quick, I'm gonna end the stream around 11 because I can't stay up too late. I got a stream I have to do with Jason tomorrow. So we get about let's about 10 more minutes. I would love to kind of like swing back around and
the other Eve left.
Last one.
Chaos.
Last law.
Okay, last one. Let's hear it.
Last one. In Minnetonka, which is it's a high-end part of the town of the state, any person who persuades another to enter a massage therapist business after 11 p.m. is guilty of a misdemeanor.
Oh God.
Gee, what could be going on in there?
That's amazing. Okay.
Look, I just wanted a late night massage. Okay.
This is not Thailand.
Tense before bed.
Oh, that's so awesome. Okay, so let's like swing all the way back around to this whole Massachusetts thing. I want to end on this. This is what we were talking about, though. Like, let's like states are, and like the whole, just when it comes to countries, we're retarded when it comes to laws. We'll make a law about anything. Like, yes, we're not quite as frivolous today about insane shit. Like, you know, people crossing the state lines with chickens on their head isn't such a problem today. But some
state try to make a law that you couldn't make Tide Pods look appetizing. I mean,
no, okay, I actually
they did.
That passed?
It didn't pass.
It didn't pass it, but there were a couple of people talking about it.
No, I actually I had called and contacted both of the people that were proposing the law, both of their offices. I talked to like staff members from them. I was trying to get them to come on to a live stream with me and debate it. Of course, they just ignored me because they didn't want to have to. But that was insane. Like, and that's a whole other thing about just. But it shows how stupid lawmakers can be. Like, they're so ignorant and so dumb, and I feel like they come up with some of this shit just to like feel like their jobs are justified. But when it comes to like things like the Second Amendment, it just when you bringing it back around, like how insane are some of these people? Like, they just have no fucking clue what they're talking about. They don't understand guns. They don't understand how they work. They don't know nothing about them. All they know is it looks scary, or it comes down to fear mongering and misinformation. And we are creating legitimate laws, or they're trying to. In Massachusetts, in this case, is actually doing
90 people that died because of gun shit and related shit.
Yeah.
But it's actually, Mr. Depp actually make a more accurate calculation. So at best, it's 10 people per day that died.
So chaos.
Huge difference.
Chaos. I don't know. Did you have a chance to read that whole article about Massachusetts court ruling?
I read over it a little bit. I don't.
Yeah.
It was last night though. So.
Just off the gist of it, what's your reaction? Like, what do you think?
I don't think the judge even understood what he was talking about. He tried to say things like the AR-15 and M16 are the same gun, which they're not.
They're not.
They're similar, but I don't know.
Yeah,
he didn't know what he was talking about.
That's exactly what I was saying earlier. I've always said they're not the exact same weapon, and even if you wanted to say they were, like I've said a million times, the M16 sucks. Like, it's not a good weapon. It's not like honestly, the AR-15.
Like, I don't think the military. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Go ahead.
Sorry. If they don't think the military's ever actually even used the AR-15, have they?
No. That's M16.
They didn't want it.
Yeah, no. And the M16 and M4A1s are like the most commonly used ones, but as I've also stated, like honestly, if I had the choice between an M16 and an AR-15, I'd take the AR-15 because it's better made. M16s weapons made for the military are made by the lowest bidder. They get them for whoever will manufacture it for the lowest cost, and that's why they suck so much.
Right.
Because they're not out for like what's the best weapon for our soldiers. They're out for what's the cheapest we can get a weapon for our soldiers. So like M16s are shitty weapons. Comparing it to the M16, to me, I'm like, no, that's a shitty comparison. Because like, who the fuck wants an M16? The M16 sucks. Like, it's a crap weapon. I had so many fucking jams with an M16A2. Like, it was just awful. I fucking hated that thing.
Worst was being qualifying range and that jams on you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because when you're on the qualifying range, you have so many rounds. They only give you enough rounds, like to actually like you'll have like 20 rounds, and you have 20 targets. So when you get a fucking jam, you're screwed. Like you're out one bullet.
Yeah.
No, you're fuck. And especially when it like double feeds or even triple feeds, it's insane.
Really loud.
Okay, so I'm gonna.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine, Chaos. Actually, Chaos, I'm really like glad you were able to hop in. I really appreciate you coming by. I hope you can join us on some future streams. So I'm gonna wrap up this stream.
I want to add it. You kept doing the thing with Maya and Shu that you want to do later on live stream, where you're gonna talk about how you fought years to go about trans people, right?
Yes, I'm gonna do a stream.
And I'm saying if you want trans people in there, you can have Eve as well on it as well.
Oh, are you trans, Chaos? I didn't know much about you. Are you trans?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Well, I was talking because Maya had tagged me, and I'm actually like, there was a short discussion about because she mentioned that she has known people that used to be like pretty bigoted towards trans people, and she tagged me, and I'm like,
transphobia, but that's not actually correct.
And I was like, yes, I used to be transphobic. I used to be pretty bigoted towards trans people because I didn't understand anything about it, and like it was a product of my upbringing and being like in a conservative household and all this stuff, and I didn't understand that. And like it was people like Blair White and Maya that have like definitely opened a whole as I transitioned into being a libertarian, it opened up that for me where I'm like, oh, they're just people. They're people like me, going through like their own problems, and it was kind of insane to me. Like, I'm like, I feel embarrassed when I look back, but I don't feel ashamed of like bringing it up because I feel like it's great to bring up like how somebody could be so close-minded like I was, and then trans people who are like out there who are break the mold from the like SJW type archetype of like trans people, but just show like, hey, we're just people, they're just out there just being who they are, not trying to make a statement necessarily, just being people. And they really helped me like kind of be like, holy shit, I was such an asshole back then, like I wasn't actively like going after trans people, but I was like, I was pretty, I was like ignorant of the situation. So that's something I want to do a whole stream on. I'm hoping I'll get Maya on. I'll keep in touch with you, Chaos, if you'd ever, because I want to do a whole stream on like trans and stuff like that, and how some people, like I want to talk about more about how I used to feel compared to how I feel now, and what helped me bring me to the light sort of in that way, and things like that. So if you'd ever want to join that stream whenever I get it scheduled, I would love that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Awesome. So real quick before we end the stream, does anybody have any like last words they want to say on the topic of guns and the Second Amendment? Go ahead.
One thing that's on my mind about this is how this judge quoted Scalia in Heller versus DC. This case is probably going to make its way to the Supreme Court eventually. And notice one thing that the Supreme Court does is judges will look back to decisions that judges from the past have made and use that to make their own decision. So it just makes me wonder how this is going to go if it makes its way to the Supreme Court and how they're going to decide on this. That's just something that I don't want to say it bothers me, but it's something that I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I think it's something going forward, like, because there's no way that this isn't going to go to the Supreme Court. It's going to be challenged, like, no doubt. It's something I feel like it's going to be interesting following from here on forward. And I do hope it goes to the Supreme Court and gets struck down, because I think states like taking action like that to just outright ban somebody's ability to defend themselves is insane. Okay, so anybody else have like a real quick like a last minute thing they want to pitch in about the topic? All right, well, if nobody has anything else to say, we're going to end this stream now. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. To my guests on the show, I really appreciate you guys all stopping by, and I hope everybody will join us for the next one. We have the Sunday stream at 4 p.m. That's going to be just me and Jason. We're going to be talking about the NAP and Arvin, I don't know how you say it, Vohra or whatever you say his last name is, the fucking vice chair of the LP. That's such an idiot. And we're going to talk about how stupid he is. Arvin. So we're going to also, I'm going to have I'm trying to hopefully this week do a Wednesday and a Thursday stream. Once I get figured out what the topics are and what the times will be, I'll post those schedules on Twitter. So, thanks so much for stopping by, everybody, and everybody in the chat. I appreciate you all joining us, and we'll see y'all later. Bye.